President Trump is canceling security clearances for law firms that have worked for or otherwise have ties to the president's political opponents. The latest target, Perkins Coie, which worked on Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign against Trump. Attorney Jim Barton from Barton Mendez Soto joins us to explain the ramifications of the security clearance cancellations. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
When we talk about security clearances, what does that mean from an attorney's perspective?
Well, I mean, it can mean a lot of things for an attorney, particularly an attorney who does work with the government, not necessarily be contracting for the government, but perhaps if you're involved in some kind of a licensing matter or some other matter that requires you to have a security clearance to see documents or to litigate cases, it can matter. I should point out, by the way, the executive order that the president issued against Perkins Coie was on March 6th. By March 12th, a judge had already issued a restraining order blocking it from taking effect. And so I think when we're talking about how it impacts the firms, it impacts the firms in some real way, but those real material ways were done 6 days later. It's really a reputational problem.
And yet it just gets in line with all the TROs and everything that's been blocked so far. You never know what's going to get unblocked. You never know what's going to happen here. And for some of these, I mean, again, the president basically saying that they were dishonest, they were conducting dangerous activity, working with George Soros on election laws. Is that enough for this kind of thing, this kind of action?
Of course it's not, and that's why the federal judge blocked it lickety-split. I mean,
Yeah.
It took so little time for the federal judge to block it. But the point of this thing, of course, is to damage the reputation of his political rivals. And it's really horrible to see the commander-in-chief, the most powerful man on the planet, use his power to go after his rivals. He named Hillary Clinton in the first couple of paragraphs of that order. It's despicable, and I think Perkins Coie is digging in. They're fighting back. Hopefully they will do fine, but they've got a tough row to hoe now when their reputation is damaged by having the President of the United States saying, you guys are on my bad guy list.
And again, previously, I think Jack Smith's firm, special prosecutor, his firm, the president cited weaponization of law firms, clogging up government, stopping government from proceeding. We know what the judge says for the block, but I mean, can this kind of stuff, especially coming from the president and the power, limited immunity that he has, can it stick?
It absolutely can stick. And, you know, I'm not the first person to say this. Every accusation is an admission. The President of the United States was the greatest example of weaponizing process with these horrible executive orders, particularly when you target individual law firms. And so can it stick? It sure can, right? I mean, because it's going to cut into their margins when, I don't know, if you're going to go get a patent, right? And let's not talk about security clearance. You're going to get a patent. Do you want to go to the law firm that is on the President of the United States hit list? Maybe not. And so that's where it really sticks.
And we've heard for years now, lawfare. The word lawfare has become a brand new word out there. Is this not, I mean, you just referred to it, is this not lawfare?
It is what the folks that were complaining about lawfare, this would be the kind of thing that they would be talking about, which is an abuse of power to use process to damage people. I don't think it's lawfare when you say, you know, we're going to file a bar complaint because you filed this many lawsuits that are totally baseless, that are wasting taxpayer money. That's a use of the process. What happened with these executive orders, yeah, this is actually lawfare. This is taking process and using it to target your enemies in it is unconstitutional, it is unlawful, but it's also wicked. And I mean, I think it's the kind of stuff that should chill people to their soul to see the President of the United States doing something like this.
Unconstitutional, violation of separation of powers?
Yes, probably a bill of attainder. I mean, it exceeds his power to do these things.
First Amendment?
First Amendment, it chills speech, it chills association. I mean, I think in the judge's order, they list the First, Fourth, and Sixth Amendment. I mean,
yes.
When a judge just sort of says, you know, these several amendments were violated, that's an unusual. I know Stacey said I'm not supposed to be saying that things are unusual, and that's not a good way to win campaigns. But the fact is, it's really unusual. It's sort of horrific.
Yeah, and the judge in the case also mentioned that the president seems to think his vision of a presidency is to be a king or a dictator. That's pretty strong language coming from judiciary there.
It's very strong language. That's right. I mean, you know, he won't be the first president, Democrat or Republican, to be alleged for trying to expand power. In fact, most of the presidents who have reputations of great presidents, somebody said that they were overreaching and they were trying to expand power. But so fast and such aggressive and, like I said, sort of immoral conduct. I mean, he said they represented my opponent in 2016, so now I'm going to put them on some enemies list of the United States of America.
That said, and last point here, because I often think about polling, and people say, that polling is rigged, that polling. Well, if the polling is rigged, then it's wrong. And if the polling is wrong, then you're not going to go back to that polling service, because who wants wrong numbers?
Correct.
With an attorney, he can say all he wants regarding Perkins Coie or any other law firm, but if that law firm gets results and gets things done, does it matter that much?
Well, I don't know. I think it depends on who we're talking about, right? If you're talking about somebody who's in a car accident and they're like, I want the guy who gets the biggest money, yeah, maybe it doesn't matter what nasty thing you say about the guy in the car accident. But when you're talking about people in executive boardrooms trying to make big decisions with millions and billions of dollars, I think that chilling effect, it does matter. Maybe it shouldn't, but I think it does. And I think this action by the president will have consequences, and they're not okay.
Interesting. Jim Barton, Barton, Mendez, and Soto. Good conversation. Good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.